podcast, Picks and Perspective with Chrys Johnston. Palpable paradox.
Like the proficiency that you're displaying here is incredible to me. Can you tell me a little bit about like where how'd you get started?
Yeah, it's a long story. No, thanks so much for your compliments there. I really appreciate that. It means a lot hearing that from you. But the story for me playing guitar, it's a weird one. So, there's a store in the UK called Argos. It's kind of just like you can buy anything from there, literally anything. And I went in there when I was around like 11 years old or something with my parents, and they'd given me enough money to buy a PlayStation 2 game. And I was like, yes, I'm going to get this game. Went to buy it, but it was out of stock. And I was like, oh no, what can I get? So they used to have a catalogue that you could flip through. So I was like, what can I get for £40? What can I get? Just flicking through it. And I just landed on the acoustic guitar page. I mean, this shop wasn't known for selling guitars. It's more like, it's like games and furniture and just stuff like that. So the guitar was terrible, but I said to my mum, I was like, can I get that? I had no intention of playing guitar before. And she was like, yeah, if you're going to play it, get it. And I was like, yeah, I promise you I'll play it. I got it. I was bloody dreadful. I didn't have any lessons or anything. I couldn't even tune it. I was playing Smoke on the Water the completely wrong way. And that was for about a year, and I didn't really play it much. I think it was when I was around 12 years old that my dad kind of edged me back into it, because he's a big music fan. He's right into his heavy metal, hard rock and stuff, and that's what I grew up listening to. And the guy that he worked with was selling his electric guitar, and it was this absolutely terrible Behringer Stratocaster copy, complete with a Behringer amp. I know, I've still got the guitar somewhere.
I didn't really realize that Behringer made guitars.
Man, it's funny every time I tell someone that, they're like, what, Behringer? But yeah, it's mad. So I had this terrible Behringer Strat, and I loved it to pieces. I was like, that inspired me to properly start learning. And this is before YouTube started. I mean, it was like a year or two before YouTube became a thing. So I was just trying to like figure it out by ear. And I was terrible for about 3 years. The first 3 years of me playing guitar, dreadful. I didn't think I was ever going to be able to play anything. Then my dad got me a Jackson King V for my Christmas, and I was just like, I need to get good now. And so that kind of inspired me to play more, and I then discovered Metallica for myself, and I think it was when I discovered Metallica, that's when it all kind of took off a bit more. Metallica and Van Halen, and yeah, just kind of locked myself away for many years after that, and it didn't really go out much as a kid, not as much as I should have. I kind of just played guitar all day. That was it really. So I think I've been playing I'm 26 now, so I've been playing for about 14 years.
Wow. Well, good use of your time, man. I know that you probably missed out on a few things outdoors during those years, but it's to our greater benefit to watch you shred the way you do now.
Thanks, man.
And it's cool that like the Jackson King V was a point where things shifted, and finding Metallica, and especially because now you're with Charvel Jackson guitars, and so it's gonna come full circle. Yeah, I love that.
I always kind of had that in my head. I was like, I'd love to just be affiliated with them in some way, shape or form one day. And obviously that happened about 2 years ago now or something. And yeah, it's pretty cool to kind of get that thing,
Yeah, no, it's one of those kind of little marks of achievement, right? Like it's a little along the way. You're like, oh, I'm good enough for this multinational company to, associate themselves with me. Yeah, well, there's that too. Yeah.
It's still
some pressure from it.
I mean, there's no pressure really. Nobody there pressures me of any of the endorsements I have. You'll know yourself that you don't really pressure artists or anything. I think the artist pressures themselves. Like when I got my Charvel endorsement, I'd at the time I was obviously riding high on that. I was like, yeah, that's great. But then it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, well, what do I do now? Like, how do I show them I'm good enough for this? You know? And you kind of have that like that war within yourself, and I'm still fighting that war sometimes. You know, of just, am I good enough to be affiliated with this brand? Like, what am I giving? What am I giving them? And I think it's just, you just take a step back and realize that they've obviously wanted you for a reason, and you kind of take away that self-doubt and put some kind of positivity in it. You know, it's a very positive thing. It's so easy for yourself to make it not a negative thing, but just, I don't know how to explain it, to kind of like scare yourself about it. If that makes sense. Which is what I'm terrible at.
Does it feel a little bit, I mean, because he says it sounds a little bit like imposter syndrome to some degree. You're like, oh, like, who am I to be good enough for this scenario? But meanwhile, the world's going, dude, you're beyond good enough. Like, you know, we want you on the team, and you have to kind of reconcile like your inner feelings with the outer input, you know, to.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I feel like because of the last year, I haven't exactly been as active as I used to be, like on social media and stuff, and with music. I mean, not a lot of us have been active with music for a wee while, not in the way that we would hope for. But I've kind of taken a back seat on the whole thing, and then it kind of crept up on me recently. I was like, I better get back to doing that, because I worked hard to get there. It's like, don't let it fall away now. You know?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of grace at this time too. You know, I mean, I don't know anybody that's not like struggling in some direction in their career, or with just trying, even if things are going good, it's struggling with the mental outlook around the world, you know, because there's so much crazy news and so much competitive information that's trying to, like, you know, we don't live in an age of like, oh, this is clearly right. Like, like some things are still clearly right, but like there's so, like I was just talking to some friends, and that we're like, hey, look, you know, I forget what it was. It was something about coffee. Maybe it was like, well, coffee is still good for you, right? Well, it depends on the time of year, because there's a new article that will come out and says, oh, coffee is shit for you, you know?
Yeah.
And then like 6 months later, oh, coffee is so good for you. Like, it has this particular antioxidant. Yeah. And because there's somebody out there that will write an article supporting your wacky idea. Good or bad, you know, like could be a really good wacky idea, and somebody out there has written an article and it's like, yeah, man, this is a great idea. And so it's confirmation bias on all these different levels. And so I mean, I'm not saying that it hasn't been that way, but it's just more, it feels like more of it. And so finding a middle ground that we feel kind of solid with, it can be difficult, and even for the most solid of human beings. So I think that there's just a lot of confusion, and a lot of maybe, you know, concern for the future of like how we're going to make it through when we can't agree on a lot of simple things, you know, because of the competing narratives.
Yeah, man, that's just humanity for you as well, though. We're like fickle creatures, you know. We're never going to agree on the same thing. We've all got these opinions that we're going to enforce, and some people agree with it, some people won't agree with it. That's just the way it is, I guess. But one of those things is, sorry, I thought that was turning off there. Don't want the interface to turn off. It started like flashing.
Oh well, how are things there where you're at? You're where exactly are you?
Edinburgh, Scotland. Yeah, things are much better these days. So here with the whole COVID scenario, I'm double vaccinated, and a lot of people I know, most of the people I know that are over the age of like 20 are double vaccinated. I think right now they're doing between the age of like 15 and 20 or something. So the props to the government. They have been absolutely smashing out the vaccinations. And I honestly didn't expect it to go that way. Like the UK, when the Brexit thing happened on top of COVID, I was like, oh God, what's going to happen here? But we've been pretty good at getting the vaccinations done. So everything's kind of opened up now. I can walk into a pub, or as you guys call it, a bar. I'll have to walk in wearing a face mask, but I can take it off when I'm there. As you know, you only have to wear it to go to the toilet. But you can go to gigs now as well. You don't need to wear your mask. But they're introducing this COVID passport thing. So only double vaccinated people can go into like major events and stuff like that. And that's caused a massive divide. So a lot of people are saying that's like infringing on, their human rights and stuff. You're scaring people into getting the vaccination so they can go and do something else. And it's such a gray area. I don't even know. I'm like, is it? I see why they're doing it, and I see why people are pissed off at it as well. It's like I agree on both sides.
Yeah, same.
What about you? Like, how's things there?
It's a little bit of it's kind of similar, mixed bag. I mean, a lot of things are still relatively open. Most folks seem to be vaccinated around here. So, but I mean, there's a considerable amount of not. I mean, my particular county is kind of county in the surrounding counties are a little lower. We're not super populated here, so I mean, it's like it's a lower population. We're a little more spread out, and I think that people in the country feel a little less rush to go and get it, unless they're already in a compromised situation, unless they're like they already know, and there's just enough kind of country folk in a way that are like, you ain't gonna do that to me, man, and like you, man, I actually, because I'm from this area, I agree. I understand. I hear them, and I think that I think there's reasonable conversation on both sides of the coin, and I think that from what I can tell, vaccines are effective. So like if you need to get it, if you feel like it's important for your particular situation, I absolutely think you should get it. I don't think I think you should have the opportunity to choose. I do think you should be able to choose. I don't feel great about a mandate, but certain jobs I could see where, hey, you know what? This job is actually so critical and it interfaces so much with people. If you're not willing to be vaccinated, then this job isn't for you. I understand those type of things too. Like, but on that side, that gets blown out of proportion. And then you have people kind of, making it more inflated than it needs to be in some of those categories. And I think the main thing, and this feels like something that is repeated throughout a lot of these type of discussions, but I just would love to see if the powers that be that are interested in mandating vaccinations and stuff like that, if they were super interested in the health and well-being of the people, I feel like there would be a better discussion and a better delivery. And so that's, if it were a better discussion and a more less like confrontational, like you got to go get the jab, you're gonna be a murderer if you don't get all that stuff. It like, well, you're just you're making them dig their heels in and not want to get pissed off.
Humans are stubborn as hell, so they're not gonna back down from that. So there needs to be like a decent conversation to be had, like show the positives of it instead of just being like, here are the negatives if you don't do this. It's like, come on.
Yeah. And there's the emerging conversation around natural immunity, those that have had it and should be tested, and if they can be shown that they have antibodies, then like that should be as good, because in most cases it shows that it's more robust than the vaccination in a lot of individuals. But like, I'm not a doctor. I'm just listening to other people have the conversation.
I'm not qualified for anyone listening or watching this.
Nope, not qualified for any of it. Only qualified for making a decision for myself.
Exactly.
And even that I need help with, right? Like if left with a bunch of papers and cases in front of me alone in a room, I wouldn't do very well, but
Yeah,
having
self-destruct.
multiple conversations being had in front of me helps, so
100%, man. It's
yeah.
crazy, like, to see where it is now. I mean, I feel like I have this conversation with everyone that I haven't seen since the whole kind of COVID thing. Because it's funny, the last proper thing I did before this all kicked off was I went to the USA for the first time. I went to the NAMM show.
Yeah,
And also I met you there.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's crazy to think that not even like 2 months after that, fucking all hell broke loose. I remember getting on that plane back from America. I was like, I can't wait to go back to America. Like, I'm gonna like work my ass off and book tickets again and like go pretty soon. And then it's just, fuck, it all fell on its arse. Oh,
yeah. Little did we know, at that, and it's kind of funny because I've been going to the NAMM show for over a decade, and every NAMM show, usually there's a big fallout. A bunch of people get sick. They get the anthrax, and so like this is the ultimate anthrax. Is like,
oh, totally,
who knows how many folks came through during that time, right?
I know, man. We could be mingling with like so many of them, and it's like such a, we'll say it's a big space, but the amount of people that are in the hall is just unbelievable. So you're interacting with like so many people over and over again, shaking so many hands as well. Imagine yourself. I don't know if you avoided it. I think Jesse was avoiding it when I spoke to him. He didn't want to get sick, but yeah, the amount of hands you must shake on a daily basis doing the NAMM show.
Definitely try when I'm there. I mean, like when I first started going to NAMM, I was a bit, it was 10 plus years ago. Actually, it's closer to like 13 or 14 years ago. And in the beginning, when you first get a gig and you're going to NAMM every year and you're preparing for NAMM every year and all that stuff, like it's the ultimate like musician party in a lot of ways. So I got to work, but I work with all the artists, so I get to get invited to a lot of the shows that are the super coolest thing, yeah. And so you kind of, a lot of times you're behind the scenes, and that's super fun. So the desire or the tendency to go and party and like let loose while you're there is high. It's high. So like the first 4, maybe 5 years I went, I was just like, woo, like throwing up, like just going hard with all the homies and staying out all night, usually on Saturday night, staying out all night, and drinking way too much. And then that would open the gate for anthrax to set in. You work the immune system down so far. And then it was probably probably 4 years ago. Well, time is such an illusion these days. It's hard to like suss out the last 2 years, but it's probably closer to 5 or 6 years ago. I stopped drinking at NAMM at all, and getting up early, doing yoga, and inviting people to come do yoga with me. And I would lead a little flow, so, and that shifted me so huge. And the people that came too, they're like, wow, man, I was standing at the booth all day today, but my hips feel like better than any previous years or any previous days I was standing around, because I did this routine with you in the morning, and watching and feeling that shift, I got a lot less. And so by the time I met you a few years ago, I mean, I got it under control. I'm not getting sick, I'm not going through that process anymore, thankfully.
You've just nailed it. Nah, that's good, man. You take care of your body, it'll take care of you. And it's so easy to neglect it and just go hard with the boozing. And I think I still need to get over that part. I'll wait another little bit. In yoga at some point soon. Get the old joints sorted.
Well, I mean, hey, you're still in your mid-20s too. Like, you still got some elasticity. You still got some like easy recovery time.
Oh man, certainly doesn't feel like it.
10, like in the next 5 to 10 years, dude, stuff starts to wane a little bit more, depending on how much working out you're doing, depending on how much conditioning you're doing with the body, right? Like, if you can condition the tissues and your vascular system to be, pretty resilient, then it can handle a little, the times that you go out a little bit better, I think. But I don't know. I'm turning 45 in another month and a half or whatever,
really?
and so
I didn't think you were. I thought you were still in your 30s.
Thanks,
I know
buddy.
everyone says that when someone says they're 40 something, but it's genuine. I'm like, I did think you were like 36 or something, if I was to guess.
That's great. That's 10 years. That's almost 10 years off. So I'll take
10
it.
fucking years, man.
It's because you can't see so closely all the gray that's in my stuff here.
So pixelated.
Yeah. No, but it's it's true for, at least for me anyway, that like the older I've gotten, I've been very like, it's easier and easier to make the decision to not go party, because I hate the recovery time. I hate it. And
it's
now
horrible.
I value sleep like I've never valued it before. But the older you get, like, you're like, sleep is more difficult to actually apprehend later as you get older, it seems like, at least for me. So yeah, man, I'm like, I use the excuse. Do you have a trouble with sleeping yourself? Is that what you said?
1 second.
Oh,
can you see me? Can you hear me?
There you. Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, I think it's fine. Everything went crazy for a second. No, I was just saying I'm a big fan of sleeping myself. I could sleep all day, but yeah, it's funny. It's like if I go out drinking, for example, I feel like the older I get, I'm not like ancient or anything. I'm only 26, making it sound way worse than it is. But the hangovers just absolutely kill me these days. And going back to the whole like exercising thing, I made the decision last week. I'm like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna start exercising more, because most of this year I've worked from home. Only in the last like month and a bit I've been back at the shop, and it's funny. My legs just felt completely different, because when I'm working from home, I'm not like other folk. I'm like going out for walks or anything. I feel like if I'm confined to a chair all day, the last thing I want to do is get up and walk around after it. So it's so hard to motivate myself. So I've gotten back to the shop, and I'm feeling a bit fragile these days. So I made the decision to like start going to the gym. So it's killing me at the moment. I'm sitting here in pain. I went 2 days in a row, which is probably a bad idea. I was like, that's fine, it's fine. And then I totally kicked my arse yesterday. I mean, like, I couldn't move this arm properly. It's like, how the hell am I going to play guitar?
Oh, that's rough.
I think we stay on top of it.
Is that from doing weights or something else?
So I'm so clueless when it comes to the gym. I was like, let's go for like the treadmill. Let's go cycle. Oh, what's this machine do? What's this do? You know, just jumping on everything. So I kind of just destroyed everything, I think.
Yeah, I'm not that great at the traditional gym stuff. I've got a couple of buddies that are really good at doing weights, and I'm slowly getting some tips and stuff from here and there. But I mean, most of it is all like, hey, start off slow, take it easy, and gradually work your way in, because you're like, I'm going to make up for lost time. And then that's when you hurt yourself. And that's when you render yourself immobile. The arm doesn't work anymore.
Oh, man.
For like 3 days.
Go at it. You'll just end up killing yourself with that. Yeah, I feel like an absolute robot. But I'm feeling a bit better now. We'll see if I return back to the gym. I've made that decision, like, let's go to the gym, let's do this. And I'll go for like a couple of days or something. I'm like, that was great. Can't wait to go back. And it's like a few months pass, like the whole SpongeBob thing, a few months later, and I'll be back at it again, repeating it. I'm determined this time.
Yeah, man. Consistency over time is what yields results. Think about your practice on guitar.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Like if it's, practicing 10 minutes a day is way better than 3 hours every 2 weeks. Right.
Oh, like, definitely.
I mean, right. So there's an element there that, and I'm guilty of the same thing you just described. So even though I teach yoga, I'm into yoga and all this stuff, and it is a form of a workout, it doesn't necessarily do the trick for everything in the body, right? It's like one element, one primary arm. And what I've started to learn is that you know what? I feel better when I work out in the morning, so I tend to set the alarm and go, and like
Yeah.
I don't let myself get out of it. I just like, oh, it's time to go, and I've even packed my bag the night before to
Yeah, it's
go to the
always a good
gym, you know.
idea.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it's like it's no, you just got to put your shoes on,
No
man, and you just
excuse.
got to just walk out the door and
Just go to sleep with your
go.
shoes on already. You're just sorted.
Whatever you got to do. but and then like think about it this way, that not every workout obviously has to be, you know, an hour or 2 hours. It doesn't have to be full intensity. In fact, they found out that it's actually more beneficial, especially for folks like us that are kind of like, you know, average dudes just trying to like not hurt, right? You know,
Yeah.
like not trying to build your body, not trying to be Arnold
The
Schwarzenegger, but
absolute swole.
yeah, so it's better to work out to like the 75%, you know, 80% of your capacity type of thing, on a regular basis. So you could practice and work out daily in that range, in that 70 to 75 to 80%. So and your recovery time is quicker, and you're going to get more time over throughout your week essentially, and you won't
Yeah.
feel as wrecked, right? So and
Yeah. No, that makes sense, man. That's
you get through a
you're
few
right.
weeks of making, yeah.
I'll take this away, this information. But no, it's funny you kind of compared it to guitar as well. I totally get that. I've been really guilty for this. I still am every now and then, like picking up a guitar for inconsistent periods. I'm like, I can do like 3 hours one day, and then the next day I play it for about 5 minutes, and it's like the next day it's 6 hours. And the next day I don't play at all, and I didn't play. It's crazy. Getting yourself into a routine definitely helps. You know, um, I'm trying to kick myself up the arse with that as well. Make a structured plan. Let's play at least kind of hour a day. Get myself back in it. It's crazy thinking back to going back to when I started to play guitar. When I properly got into it, I think I was maybe 14 years old, so about 3 and a bit years after I got my first guitar, and that's when I was like, it was guitar or nothing. I'd go to sleep and I'd eat and I'd drink, and the only other thing I'd do is play guitar, and I just had that drive non-stop to the point where I was playing like 8 hours a day, which is, I wouldn't recommend that to anyone. You know, it'll take its toll on your hands, but it's crazy looking back at how dedicated I was at 14 years old. Like I did have I had a schedule there, a structure, crazy amount of hours, and it's like nowadays I'm like, I'll play for 10 minutes, you know, pick up for a little bit, have a little noodle. I feel like, I don't know about yourself, like when you pick up guitar, do you have an idea of what you're going to do, or is just pick up and see what happens? Because that's
That's a great,
more or less what I'm like.
yeah, it's so you just pick it up and see what happens. Is that what you're saying?
Most of the time, I might be sitting there
Yeah.
and I might have an idea in my head for like a riff that I want to like expand on. A lot of time I'll kind of write riffs in my head and I'll go, oh, cool, let's try and like bring that out. And then I'll go and do it. But most of the time, I'll just pick up the guitar and play a few chords, and then I'll just see where it takes me.
Yeah, I would say that's more my method than anything, but it's interesting because I feel like one of those, like, I don't know. I don't feel like I have a huge imposter syndrome in that category. Like the fact that I ever get any licks out that I ever think are any good, and that anybody else ever goes, "Oh, mate, that was good," you know, like, good job, keep working on that.
Yeah,
That all seems kind of crazy to me because I'm in touch with so many of you guys, of these amazing artists out there, that I'm like, whoa, man, like, and it's not just like, for me, it's one thing to click onto Instagram and follow all your favorite people and be inspired or blown away or, you know,
yeah.
whatever by them. But I mean, I have conversations with all of you, you know, I've sat in a room with most of you, and some of the greatest players in the world, you know, Zach Wild, Marty Friedman, Andy James, all these guys, you know,
Yeah,
you sit next to them, and I mean, I did the EMG TV thing for 3 years and flew people in, you know, and then put them out there and watched them do take after take to get the right thing, you know. And
yeah,
so for a long time I was just totally discouraged, just like, there's nothing I can do in this lifetime that will like even remotely come close. So I'm just kind of like, there was a part of me that was feeling like, oh, don't like, because you're not going to ever get anywhere like amazing with this, it might be better to shift your goals towards having fun and being curious about the thing. And because I know myself too, I'm not a really good studier, with guitar. I don't sit and it becomes math and I'm like, I'm bored.
Yeah, it's kind of it's so easy to bore yourself with it, or like get kind of frustrated. And it's like doing anything. It's like doing homework, but when you want to do something you enjoy with it, with guitar. It's funny you say that though. The whole imposter syndrome. It's so easy to feel that way, especially if you're working with guys like Andy James and Marty Friedman, and like I would feel the exact same. I'd just be like, what am I doing? But you have to like give credit to yourself as well, because you are a great player, and so many of the guys out there that you work with recognize that, and other people as well. But it's about not comparing yourself to that other person. I feel like just think of it. You're your own individual guitar player. And that's the way I try and think about it. I used to kind of compare myself to a lot of people. Not compare myself, not like I sound like them, but I'm like, how am I going to be as good as them, or how do I become them, but as soon as I realized that I'm doing my own thing, I'm at least trying, I'm taking my favorite guitarist ideas and I'm like, trying to expand on it and create my own sound from it and stuff. But there's no point comparing myself to Marty Friedman or anything. He's Marty Friedman and I'm me, just like you're you. If that makes any sense. I kind of got
it doesn't. Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the kind words, and it's a good reminder, and that is how I tend to live my life, is to not be in comparison in that kind of negative sort of way, but the comparison is inevitable also, right? Like it's something that you're not going to ever fully get away from, and nor do I really want to get away from it, because there's an element of it that in it lies your ability, your an attempt to be objective about yourself, right? At least for me, right? So in looking at your playing and your music, I'm like, like I see, because I've been studying shredders for a long time, since I could remember that I liked Marty Friedman and on Rust in Peace and Steve Vai on Passion of Warfare. Before I ever played guitar, I heard those players and was like, that's the best shit that ever happened. I'm pretty sure of it, and that was just like, a young, naive person. But now I've been listening to, the world's players for a long time, the Petrucci's and everybody. Right. And so when I look at your playing, I'm like, oh, well, I see a lot of things assimilated, I see a lot of things, and I also see a personal style emerging. I see, because once you've assimilated a lot of the different technique, then it's just about like how it's grouped and how the phrasing comes out of your particular, your emotion, right? Like your emotive quality. And every time I stop and I think about it nowadays, I feel better and better about it. I still have moments of like, feeling down about playing, but mostly, I think that's and I think that is inevitable too, right? Like it's just you're going to compare and contrast, but as long as it doesn't become something that you cycle through and get stuck in, I think it can still be positive, because you're like, oh, that's cool. I can really admire, Friedman's phrasing and the way he does those pre-bends, and he kind of drops into a note, and you're like, man, nobody else really does that except for a few people that have maybe copped his thing, and but I don't remember anybody doing it before him, but the originality, nobody is doing exactly what you're doing from the vantage point that you're doing it, and same with me, so have fun, I guess. Enjoy
exactly
it.
Just have fun with it. Guitar, you can take it seriously. It's good to take it seriously in a way, but just make sure that whatever you're doing with it, you're enjoying it. It got to the point, speaking of like enjoyment with it, where like a few years ago when Instagram was like the thing for guitar, take me back to like 2017 or something, 2017, 2018. I feel like that was kind of like peak Instagram guitar period. And it was so different, but I was so focused on getting a video a day out there that I'd come back from work. The first thing I'd do is plug my guitar in and, turn a laptop on, get my phone and just record at the same time as me playing just a random improv so I could get something out there. Just to get something out, just to have something to post. And I was like, I got myself in a bad routine of that because I was picking up a guitar to do that, I wasn't picking up a guitar to learn new things, to write stuff or to enjoy it. For a period of time, I was, let's make a video, you need to get yourself out there, convince myself that that's the way things are, you're not going to make it unless you do it. And in a way, I'm glad I did that, but there was a period of time where I just didn't enjoy playing guitar, and it kind of crept back up on me earlier this year. Or I think I just had one of those moments where I was like, I don't think I enjoy playing guitar anymore. And it happened for like a couple of weeks. I was like, I'm just not going to touch it. I was going to leave it and see how I feel. Come back to it, don't force myself to do it. And kind of I went back to it, I thought a lot about it. I was like, why did I play guitar in the first place? I just wanted to have fun with it. So let's have fun with it again. And I just took an entirely different approach. I was like, making videos and content is cool, but it's not the end game. I want to get more music out there. I want to hone my skills, my abilities. I don't want to, if I'm posting something every single day, it's not going to be that different from one post to another, I don't have that time to just kind of hone my skills, learn something new. So I kind of taken a kind of back seat with it, where it's like, write new stuff, have fun with it, learn some things, and go from there. And it has made me really, really like playing guitar again. I find myself coming home from work, and first thing I do is pick up guitar, and I just sit and play. Don't turn the camera on, don't start recording. I'm just sitting and playing. I'm finally having fun with it. It's crazy.
I love hearing that. I mean, not the part that where you got down and wanted to quit guitar, but but again, I think we keep talking about like kind of necessary evils in a way, right? Like, because if you were able to sustain that daily thing, then you would for sure burn out, right? Like you would for sure at some point throw the thing down and you'd be like, that's it, I'm done, and I'm not going back. I'm gonna take up anything other than this. But because when this is the thing that kind of gets lost some obviously in conversation around a lot of things is nuance, like the nuance and all the shades of gray in between doing something and not doing something, right? And when we create like a monocrop, like you think about it in the way of farming, right? Like modern farming wants to put like 1 billion acres of corn in one area, right? And then the problem with that is that all the normal things that would come through and be a part of that ecosystem are lost, and so we have to make it up with pesticides and different nutrients and the soil erosion and all these things, right? And so you create more problems than were originally there by trying to kind of get greedy and get all this extra time and put all your eggs in like kind of one basket, so to speak. Whereas when life is lived and more diverse, and we take time away from the thing that we love, so that when we come back to it, like
you want to miss it. It's a good missing something's a great. It's a weird feeling, but it's a great feeling because when you come back to it, it's like, this is amazing. And it's funny. See, going back to kind of Instagram chat, because that's obviously where my opportunities have come mostly from Instagram, and I'm very grateful for that. And it's incredible. It's incredible. You can just, from your own phone, you can make these connections with people across the entire world, and build a following and connect to all these. It's mental. It still blows my mind being able to do that. But it's crazy, the world of guitar now. If I imagined myself getting into guitar now compared to like 2006 when I started to play, it's a completely different thing. I didn't have you know, I couldn't just go on Instagram back then and see like kids all over the world shredding Paul Gilbert non-stop. You know, I don't know how I'd feel if I seen that. You know, it might just discourage me straight away, or it could have the exact opposite effect and completely inspire me. And I'm seeing myself on Instagram as these guys just started to play guitar. They might have started it during lockdown, and they went on Instagram, and they've seen all these other people doing it, and they're trying to just be these other people, and they're putting. It's great though, because they're putting themselves out there, but I just can't imagine starting in that kind of world, you know, where it's just there, you know, it's daily. People are, a lot of these people, some of them, they're just posting for likes, or they think that I need to get an endorsement. You know, they might not even know what an endorsement is, but they're like, I need an endorsement because that's, you know, that completes me as a guitar player. It's crazy.
Most people don't know what an endorsement is, right?
It's crazy, man. I mean, I was guilty of that myself a long time ago before I went to college, and then it was kind of explained. But I just thought, oh man, that's cool. Endorsements, just that's what you want, you know.
Oh, me too. I mean, I got my first endorsement. It's strangely maybe my only endorsement really ever, but was through EMG Pickups. Back in like 2003, my band, we were up in Seattle, and we'd put an EP out. And I was like, so proud of it, right? We spent all of our freaking time and money to put into this thing. And it was still, when I go back and listen to it, I'm like, oh, it's substandard as fuck. But like, but hey, at the time, like it was the best thing we'd ever done. And we spent between the five of us, we spent 10 grand on this album and took all this time off of it, you know. And in 2003, we, you know, had we only been practicing with click tracks and tempo maps, that would have been, had, you know, that would have been like really cool. B, had us guitar players had a little more maturity under our belt, then that would have, you know, whatever. But that's retrospect. But my drummer and I at the time, we got invited to NAMM through EMG. They were like, hey, you coming to the NAMM show? And we're like, what's that? I don't know what that is. They're like, well, it's only the biggest, coolest party of all time for musicians. And we're like, well, I guess we're going to have to go. Definitely. Like, well, so they gave us a couple of passes, and we drove from Seattle all the way to LA with a box of our CDs, you know, and 20 hours or something like that, you know. I think we stopped off and stayed at a friend's house on the way, but the impetus is, or just like the conclusion really is that, you know, we did the thing that most people that get to go to NAMM that don't really have a clue what they're doing, but they know somebody adjacent from the industry, or they have a small deal that then makes them think, well, we'll just go there and collect more, you know, sponsorships, you know, we're just going to go. Yeah. Cause EMG, like now we can say, hey, EMG gave us the thing, so let's go over here to Jackson or to ESP or wherever. And so we showed up and we did the thing that, like, for the last decade that I'm like trying to talk people out of doing, you know, like I'm like, hey, you know, it's good that you got your first EP, and that, you know, I get it. I get it. And it would be awesome to be involved with your favorite company, but are you actually ready for it? What do you actually have, you know, to give? What do you have an engaged following? Right. And that's the thing that people skip over right away. Like, I'm a great player, and they might be a super sick player. They might have written some genius album. But until there's an engaged following, you're not ready for an endorsement.
That's just it. You know, it's you're promoting them, and in turn they'll help you out with gear, or, you know, they'll share your stuff, that kind of thing. It's like a lot of people just don't understand that. And it's like, how do I get one? You know, but it's these days, you need to have an active, engaged following, because it's like, if it's a business agreement in a way, you know. Like when I'm playing Charvel or my EMGs and stuff, I'm not obviously posting videos to sell them to people, but in the process, you know, I'm gonna tag them and stuff. I'm gonna, like, people are gonna see what I'm using, and if I've got X amount of people watching, that company's more likely to want to help me out with that gear, because then it's free advertisement for them, you know, for maybe a guitar here and there, some pickups, whatever. It's like, that's the way it is. But yeah, it's obviously an agreement with yourself and a company, but you'll know a lot more about that since that's your job as well. You must
Well,
get
it's
some
what
crazy questions from people.
I think. Thankfully, the internet answers a certain amount of them nowadays, right? Like, there's an X amount of like videos and blogs that have been gone up about this. So, thankfully, in a way there's more educated people about it than there ever was. But because the exponential rise of social media and the population and everything, you always have another wave of
Yeah,
young people that think that they are ready for it. And it's interesting because, especially for myself, I've always been a fan of the underdog. When I first started in artist relations back in like 2007, 2008, 2009, something like that, one of the things that I felt near and dear to my heart, because I was the underdog and somebody gave me the chance and said, hey, the guy, this guy that's passed on now, Jack Now, he called me and said, hey, I got your CD here at EMG Pickups. Don't ever buy an EMG from the store again. Give me a call. And I was like, oh my God,
coolest
so
thing ever.
the excitement level was through the roof. And essentially, I wasn't necessarily even, like worthy of that in a way, but because EMG and certain companies can go, hey, you know what, we're gonna do little development deals, and we have just enough people that are kind of like more common working musicians. They're not huge musicians, but we have enough of them. If they get a discount on the product, then their word of mouth means something too, because they might be a guitar teacher and they sell their students on it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
oh, if all these little other ways. So if a company is savvy in that way, then that is a method. But it's less and less of that these days, where we're at more so, at least where I find myself, especially with Kiesel and everything, is that we have enough of that. And now it's like, well, okay, if we're going to spend our time wisely, then like we're looking for cooperative relationships with people with 50,000, 75,000, 100,000 and above, because we have enough people with 5,000 and 10,000 and 20,000 in the as far as engagement and followers. And but there is still room, and occasionally you'll find somebody like myself or somebody else that kind of has a heart on their sleeve, and they're like, you know what, like, you're not the demographic exactly, but I see what you're doing, and it's kind of like a development deal. Like, you only have 5 or 10,000 now, but I'm gonna follow you. We're gonna give you a deal, and then as we start to share your stuff and we see that people pick up on, who will help grow your audience with you, essentially, right? And I think that's that's the kind of the Hail Mary pass that a lot of people are still like kind of hoping for. I've only got 5,000, but if you put me out in front of your people,
I'm
who
gonna
knows?
like triple it. Nah, it's good that you still do that. It's good to take a chance on some people, because you never know. Absolutely. They might be the next big thing. It could be one of those things. But it's Kiesel itself is obviously a huge company. Before I kind of even got into going on to Instagram and stuff, I knew about like carving guitars, and then it became like Kiesel carving. I just thought it was cool as hell. Even seeing it, I was like, oh man, these look cool. And it's so, I don't know. It's just obviously, there's just something about the company that's just like, has that cool factor. And I feel like that's why a lot of people are drawn to it as well. I see so many people on my feed and like in my videos and stuff that mention Kiesel, and they love it, and it's crazy. It's like totally just sells itself in a way,
It's a smart business model, and I will say that Jeff has done a really good, a heap of work in the process as he took over the company. Because I have had a few even detractors, people that are like, oh man, fuck Kiesel. Like, I've had, there's a few of them out there, then they're big names, and they're like, I can't vibe with it. I don't like that. I don't like this. I don't like that about it. But oftentimes the same people, and I've heard this said a few times, like, but your shit is genius, because you guys will you'll take money for a guitar, and then the people wait right? Because it's a custom shop scenario. Like they spend probably 3 to 6 months like deciding on what they're going to purchase. And then they call in, they finally put the money down, they purchase the thing, and then they have to wait. Well, it was a minimum of 12 to like 16 weeks. Now we're at like 20 to 24 weeks wait right now, because we're honestly doing the best ever. And
nice.
so it's super cool. I mean, in considering the pandemic, it could go either way. We've gone in the right direction, thankfully. But and so the whole time they're waiting for a guitar, they're in the forums talking about the guitar and talking about other people about the guitars. And so, and there's in our Facebook group, we have like 20,000 people at any given time, all waiting on builds and all kind of, putting fuel on the fire for the gas syndrome, And so everybody's just like, oh, you got an Aries with the bevel, with the stripe and oh man. Okay. So I might sell one of mine, or I'm going to save up and buy, I'm going to do a build almost like that, but mine's going to be green, and
that's the thing. You can do that.
Cool.
And I feel like that's what I respect most about Kiesel, and think it's the coolest thing, because it's like, it's custom shop. You can pick exactly what you want and get it. It's not the same as a lot of other guitars out there, which is cool. It's interesting business model as well, because you have to go direct. They're not going to stores and stuff. I work for a guitar company, so I mean a guitar store, and obviously you get the distributors and supplier, all that kind of thing. But it's like, it's funny, I still get asked the question, like, are you guys getting Kiesel guitars? And it's like, nah, they're like a direct thing. We've actually we've had a couple, so we do a lot of second hand items. People sell their gear, they'll trade it in. I don't know if Guitar Center do the same kind of thing. You can trade in your gear and get something new. And we do that as well. I've seen like 3 Kiesels come in so far. I've seen that. What's that one that's like the reverse Randy Rhoads? It's got the short.
Oh yeah, it's the Ultra V.
Yeah, we had one of those in. It was like Ultra V 7-string. Looked absolutely massive on me.
Wow.
What's the Vader as well, and like something else. So it's funny, like over here they're so rare. Like I never see them. The only other Kiesels I've seen in the UK was when I was at Mick Rockland's house, and he showed me his collection. That was it though. It's crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine them being a little more rare over there for sure. And like, go ahead.
I meant to say, like, they might be rare, like compared to like, Jacksons or Ibanez, that kind of thing, but it's like, doesn't stop people talking about them, because people are still totally gassing over them, wanting them. And I know a lot of guys that have went and purchased them as well. They've bit the bullet and went for it. But yeah, it's mad.
Yeah, there's a little bit of I worked in a music store, guitar store for a few years too, and right before I actually got into the industry doing what I'm doing now. And I actually in some ways it's a shame that we don't, there's a part of me, I'm like, oh, I wish that we were in stores. But you there's a trade-off. It's a trade-off. There's like, we could go down that road, and then that would make things more accessible in certain ways, but a little less there's it's a little less like exciting, because you have to the ropes and the hoops you have to jump through to get a guitar now and sort it out. You almost become an investigator, because you're like, okay, if I want one of those cool custom guitars, oh wait, they have a bunch of options, so I could get one with a thin neck or a super thick neck, extended range, short range, like gold frets, so you have to almost you become a connoisseur of the different types of specs. Whereas before Kiesel, most players only know a handful of specs about their guitars, don't know all the woods. There's like, oh, I like that one, it's the cool color, and oh, is this a 25.5 scale length? I didn't know. I just I just like it, but when you buy a Kiesel, you're like, oh no, I have this scale length. I'm very clear about the neck thickness, and I chose stainless steel frets because and I want these pickups because you get more nerdy about it, right? So.
Yeah, it's so much of that now. It's cool to see, but it's funny. Stainless steel frets as well. I see everyone going on about them online, like it's the must-have thing for a guitar. Like I have a few Charvel DK24s, and they don't have stainless steel frets. But to me, it's not really an issue because I don't tend, I'm not gonna need to get it refretted anytime soon. I've had it for like 2.5 years now, and it's like it's completely fine. But people will just read online. They're like, "Oh, you must have stainless steel. You must have it." It's mental. It's funny that it's like the whole
Andy James doesn't mess with
thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I look at Andy James and he's like anti stainless steel.
Oh, is he? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's one of the few dudes that's like, oh man, I can hear it and it sounds like crap. I want nickel frets.
Yeah, and I feel like whenever I play a guitar with stainless steel frets, it just sounds a lot brighter. It's a bit snappier, but I kind of like that as well. Depends obviously what the overall build is, but like I think some of the Ibanez AZ models, they have stainless steel, and something like the Sur guitars, like their tellies, like the stainless steel, it's got that perfect kind of brightness to it that I like. But I wouldn't have it on my DK24 because it's snappy enough, It'd just be so bright. You might as well put like a 0 fret on there as well, just complete it. But
I don't mind it so much, and I got some with gold frets, and I only have maybe only my blue Sparkles Delos, my Strat looking guitar. I think that one is the only one with nickel around here, but it's I think back and I think it's really cool. I share an affinity for Charvel Jackson because that was I had a couple different modes. In the beginning I was super into Ibanez, and then and I had like 5 Ibanez guitars, and then I had a Jackson Charvel phase that was where I still miss. I had the Sean Lane Charvel.
Oh,
you're familiar
really?
with that yellow one, the yellow transparent yellow top. I had that not exact, but that model. It was a 750 XL, and I'm still kind of mad at myself for getting rid of that. I'm like pretty mad. Away. Yeah, actually had this Crescent made to kind of simulate a little bit. It's not the same, but like similar spec builds, and it's like I don't have that guitar anymore, but I'm gonna get a quilt maple top that's like kind of a yellow orange.
It's cool. I like that, man. I like that guitar. The Crescents look quite interesting as well with the double cutaway. Just I'm assuming like the access at the top of the fret is just like amazing.
Yeah. It's right up to the 24th fret, pretty much. It's so close, like right there. Cool. And I didn't actually. It's funny. I was not a Crescent fan. It didn't appeal to me until Andy. Till I really started. I played Andy James guitars a few times, and I started getting more comfortable with the shape. And then I ended up with a loaner. I ended up with a loaner back that I got back from Herman Lee, and I was like, well, I'm not going to give this back right away. I need to hold on to this guitar for a little bit. And I realized it was like one of the shreddiest things ever. And then I had them build me this one because I needed one with specs that I picked out basically.
Absolutely.
But yeah, to go back, I mean, I don't know, just Charvel Jackson has a soft spot in my heart. Yeah. I spent most of my touring years playing Charvel Jackson soloists, and I had a Jackson Kelly with a reverse headstock because I was a big Marty Friedman fan, and I was like,
I'd love one.
I want to get one different. I had the reverse headstock versus the regular, but just really, really great guitars, cool company, and I'm glad that they've really revived and stayed steady with the Charvel brand because they've done such good things. And you pick those guitars up, and you're like, this is a really good deal.
They've completely changed it over the last few years, and it's only really when I started working in a guitar store that because I was one of those guitarists that didn't have a clue what I was playing. Like I was like, oh, this is a piece of wood with strings on it. I didn't understand that. I was like, oh, this has got Seymour Duncan pickups in it. They're cool. But then I started working at the shop, obviously, I kind of learned all about it. And it's the pink DK24 that I have. But they were announced and we got the email. It was like when it was still under embargo and stuff. And I was like, I was only really familiar with the older Charvel stuff and the SoCals and San Dimas models they'd been making, the Japanese ones, back in like kind of 2015, 2016. So when I seen these, I was like, holy shit, that's like, they've totally just taken a Jackson and blended it with a Charvel, and they've just made it its own thing. And I was like, that's cool as hell. Wonder how they're going to be. And I kind of put it to the back of my mind. I had a few Jacksons at the time, and I was big on Ibanez as well. Had a Music Man JP6 at the time as well. That's a guitar that I regret selling. One of the ones that got away. It just played so well. And it was somehow still in mint condition. Most of my guitars end up getting bashed around and stuff, but that one just somehow survived. But anyway, I'm getting distracted. One of the guys, when the DK24s landed in the UK, we had one. It was just being unboxed, and a guy unboxed it, brought it upstairs, and it was the pink one that I have. And I remember seeing it when I was working. Seeing it, he was walking and going, put it on the wall. I was like, nah, you have to pass that to me, please. Pass that to me. I sat down in the chair and I just played a few chords, and I was like, oh my God, I need this. And so I literally went up to the front counter after it and bought it. I'd been saving like for a guitar anyway. I didn't know what I wanted. I had that guitar shop syndrome where I wanted everything. I changed my mind every single day. I was like, I want an Ibanez. No, I want another Jackson, this. But I went and bought that, and it was just completely fell in love with it. And it's one of those things where it's like, from there, what next, what can I get now? But that's still my go-to guitar. I don't know, I'm like turning around looking at it so proudly.
No, that's for good reason, man. Like they did a really good job speccing those guitars out. They hit a good price point. The little scoop behind the on the back of the lower horn is really nice. I think they finally hit the mark for me. Like I thought it was cool when they were doing those like San Dimas throwbacks, but I was like, I'm not really interested. It's like that's for somebody that missed out on the 80s thing, which it was cool in the 80s. And if you really need to have that particular thing, then I hear you, but it didn't do anything for me. But these make more sense, and I can see why tons of players are picking them up.
They've got so many little kind of tweaks that you would want in a guitar. Like if I was to pick out a guitar myself, I'd go for something with a non-locking trem, and it's got the go-to on it. It's got the belly cut and the contour at the cutaway as well is bang on. The jack input placement as well is just like ridiculous. So it's something I would have thought about. And it's just it's almost like something someone would go and spend £2,000 on, but it's at a decent price point. It's only 800 something pounds, which is mad. I feel like when they came out as well, it's when Ibanez came out with the AZ models, and it was like total head to head. Should I get a DK24? Should I get an AZ? And they're both fantastic guitars. But
quality guitars, but I think the Charvel actually, just it looks better to me. I like a couple of the AZ models, but I don't know, none of that really translated for me. I like the fact that Charvel gets to use the Fender headstock. Charvel Jackson, like when that finally shifted and they could use it, it's over with. That's a recognizable, iconic headstock too. Not that the Ibanez isn't, recognizable. It just doesn't do the same thing for me.
It's not like a Strat headstock,
No.
That's what I love about it as well. It's interesting you say that, like the headstock. I do love a Strat headstock. I feel like on the T models that they do, the kind of SoCal style too, it's their Tele models. The headstock on that's slightly different to a Tele headstock, I'm sure. It'd be cool if they just done the exact Tele headstock. They're loving that. I had one, a loaner for a while that was it's a 7-string, and it had a reverse Tele headstock, which was really cool, and a black kind of ash body, and that was really cool. It had like Seymour Duncan Sentient Nazgul pickups in it. So they clearly made that with some intention, just
Yeah.
going to that kind of gent thing, you know. Go
Yeah.
straight to them.
I would love to ask you. I want to ask you about your picks and about like your memories about when you first were starting out. What do you remember about your first couple of guitar picks? Was there anybody that gave you a guitar pick, or how did you find your first guitar picks? And what's it been like through the years until now? You know, how did you get to play what you're currently using?
Yeah, interesting question. So basically, when I started playing guitar, I wasn't using a pick. The guitar I bought did not come with any like plectrums of any kind. And I was watching videos of guys playing guitar, and I was just kind of emulating their right hand. So I was like, I think Kirk Hammett as well. I was like, he kind of holds his pick like that, but I still do. And I was just using the end of my finger as like as a pick. But first pick I got was a Jim Dunlop plectrum, and it was a guy that lived a few doors down from me. He played guitar. He'd been playing for a few years, and he was sitting out the front of his kind of garden. He had this little conservatory thing at the front door, with his Gibson SG, and I went across with my terrible acoustic. I was just hoping he can kind of show me some stuff, and he gave me one of his picks, and it was like a Tortex, or so it was. I'm pretty sure it was like one of the green ones. Can't remember exactly, but from there, like when I went into the guitar shop, I went to the front counter and had the whole Dunlop thing. They had a selection of other picks as well. These like holographic ones with a little image on them, which is just like terrible, but I thought they were really cool. So I started using them for a while, but they're just so impractical because the amount of noise you'd get from scraping against the string was unbelievable. But I settled when I was in my mad Metallica phase. I settled on the green Tortex, the 77 or something. I can't remember.
88.
88. There you go. You'll know.
Yeah.
And from there, I used those for years, and then I used the yellow ones, and I started to. I used to sharpen my picks because I was like, just the point isn't there. So I used to go to the carpet, and I'd just scrape it against it on both sides, and I'd have an absolute point on the end. I felt like that was going to make me play faster, you know, be a better like shredder from doing that. It certainly helped a little bit, but I was using those for a while. And I was watching a video of Guthrie Govan, and he was talking about picks, and he was saying to go for something which was heavy, but not like too heavy, something that isn't too flexible, because you'll get better kind of dynamics and stuff. And I was like, oh, cool, I'll try something a bit heavier. So I went to I think there is the blue Dunlop picks. I think it's 1 point something.
Yeah, 1.0.
Yeah. Yeah, the 1.0 is, why did I say 1 point something? So that's what I'm using now. I'm using 1.0 flows, but they're black. I'll show you that just now actually. But yeah, so I was using those for a while, and I just fell in love with that. You know, it was perfect thing for me. So when Dunlop brought out the flows, I was blown away because they were ever so slightly smaller. Which is because I feel like the standard Tortex just had a bit too much pick for me for the way I hold it. But this was kind of perfect. And not only that, it had the point on it as well. So it's like those can you even see that?
Oh yeah, and you got the custom printed ones too.
Yeah. So one of the guys, I think Dunlop's weird over here, and so they work with, you probably know it yourself, with West Side Distribution. And working at the guitar shop, we see the guys from there all the time. And one of the guys that works there, who handles the Dunlop thing mostly, a guy called Mark, he came in. I thought he was a customer at first, because I remember being so unbelievably hungover walking through. I was like, oh God, I need to get some coffee. And there's a guy in the acoustic area, and he was like, oh, hey Kieran, how you doing? And I was just like, oh, how's this customer knowing him? Anyway, it turns out it was Mark, and he was like, oh, I've been watching your Instagram videos and stuff, really like them. I should try out some picks. We've got some new picks coming out, like the flows, the Tortex flows. I'll send you some. So he came in with like a bunch of different kind of picks, and he let me try some out, and I was like, Tortex Flow is definitely the one, and it was the blue, the 1 mil, and I was like, cool. And he was like, oh, cool, we'll get custom print and stuff. And I was like, oh my god, no way. So I wasn't sure what to put on it. I was like, well, just get my band logo. So it's got my old. I'd left the band this year, so I'll have to scrape these off now. Had that, and I was like, he was like, what do you want for the other side? I was like, oh yeah, it's two-sided. I don't know. I didn't want to put my name on it because I was like, as again, imposter syndrome. I was like, I don't want to be that guy. You know, I just have my band on it, whatever. But he was like insisting, we'll put your name on it and stuff. I thought he was only going to make a couple or something for me. And then I had like 1,500 or something arrive. I was like, hell, that's crazy. I've been using these for about a couple of years now. I love them. I can't really use anything else. I try and, experiment with other things. I like the thicker stuff as well. The 3 mil flows. Weirdly enough, I didn't think I would like them, but they're good for certain things. But yeah, the 1 mil Tortex Flow just has to be the one for me.
That's super cool, man. I love it. It's super near and dear to my heart because I was there and helped create the whole line with Andy and Petrucci and
that's cool as hell.
And Jimmy Dunlop. So like I love the fact that it's like wildfire and there's so many people using Flow out there. I'm like, because I was sitting at my desk and remembering. I just remember going through all these different picks with Andy and kind of being like bothered by him a little bit, like, oh god, like we've been through so many fucking picks with like I put his name on a bunch of different picks, and then by the time the picks would get to him, he'd be like, oh mate, I'm on to something else, and I'm like, what did we just
I'm using this now, mate.
I got this. I'm knocking shit over. I got this triangle now. I'm like, okay, so you don't want the other thing? Like, well, I'll find somebody to give them to. I'll use some of them. I'm like, all right, but yeah, just and then for him to get his first batch and then show him to Petrucci, and for Petrucci to change his whole game because of Andy, that's crazy. Ultimate. That's the ultimate like underdog coming up, like to inspire not just your hero, but like in our realm, a cultural phenomenon. Everybody agrees that Petrucci is like Grandpa Shred,
he absolutely. There's no question.
Nobody would be any. I mean, you don't get by in modern guitar playing without hearing his name and being in awe of his playing, whether you like his band or not, it doesn't matter, so that's just like, and to see somebody that I know and love like Andy get the opportunity to be like, hey mate, you try one of these, okay, later. oh what, you want more of my picks? Are you serious? I have to drive out and give you more of my picks, like it's like yes, that's like a win. No,
that's cool, man. I'd be riding high on that forever, like. So I can see why you're so proud for it. That's awesome.
I love it.
To know that you had that kind of. Obviously, I knew you worked at Dunlop for a long time, but I didn't know about the whole Flow story though. That's cool.
Yeah. I was the director there for 5 years, and probably arguably maybe the greatest gig that I've had in a way. I mean, not to diminish Kiesel or any of the other gigs, it's just that Dunlop is mighty, in the sphere, and then to have a couple, any company is lucky to have one super dominant product or a dominant category of products, but for a company like Dunlop to have multiple dominant categories where, I mean, they're the dominant pick maker in the universe, that'll probably never change. Like they're the dominant wah, they own Crybaby, so you can't. Yes, there are other good wahs, that's the truth. There are, but Crybaby is synonymous with.
You think about that, and you think about a wah. That's what I always thought about. And so what a lot of guys, coming into the shop I work in, they're like, I want a wah, I want a Crybaby. I'm like, exactly, that's the one. That's my first wah as well.
Yeah,
and it's just
and
cool.
There's so many signatures, out there that you can go, and if you want to get that particular sound, which is cool. And then you have, MXR is its own dominant category, albeit MXR at times is a little slow and behind certain things as far as the wide scheme of pedal makers. They still make consistent quality. I mean, everybody at some point has a Phase 90. Even if you don't have a Phase 90 now, you had one at some point, or you knew somebody that did, and you had to click through it and go, oh, that's what a Phase. Oh, okay. You know, you're like Phase 90. You have to. It's a point of reference. It's a cultural point of reference, right? Within the sphere. And then you have, for a long time, Dunlop capos were the only thing. I mean, now there's a lot of great capos out there, but you could go down the list. And so arguably Dunlop is one of the greatest,
Definitely. I feel like it's being Scottish, you're instantly proud about stuff, but it's like I'm more proud about Dunlop because of Jim Dunlop being from Scotland. And I was just like, so it feels even better, it's like respecting that company, like it's funny, like Scottish people are so proud. So if I know if anything has, like any Scottishness about it, I'm like, I love it, it's for me.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that for a while as well. Jim Dunlop was a Scottish guy. And then an interesting story as well. I was serving a couple of customers at the shop once, and it was like a man, his wife, and their son, and they're buying their son a guitar. And the wife was like, "Oh, Dunlop, that's still a thing in that." I was like, I used to be Jim Dunlop's secretary, like over in the States or something for a wee while. I was like, that's crazy. So tell me all about that. I was like, wow, that's just fucking cool. But that's when I didn't realize you were Scottish until then. But
I see.
No, it's cool to see Scotland take over the world with picks for sure.
Yeah, Jim Dunlop Senior, Jim Dunlop. I mean, he was and is still a legend. I mean, he passed away a few years ago. Matter of fact, he passed away a couple weeks after I left the company. Like as I was leaving, like which was, he wasn't doing super well for the year or so before that, but it was just an interesting synchronicity of time where I was like, oh, well, it's time for me to go. I'm going to take this gig with Kiesel and And then like, as we were finalizing me leaving, like Jim Sr. passed away. And then, and all this, I went to his funeral, and, there was all these amazing people that flew in from all around the world and told stories about him, and kind of just how badass he was. Like he rode motorcycles cross country and like got into all kinds of trouble, and like like he just had, you're like, whoa, like and then if you get to know, hearing those stories, because I interacted with Jim Sr. a little bit, but mostly he was kind of out of the day-to-day by the time I was there. And Jimmy Dunlop, his son, was my main guy, and who I worked with and did everything with, and so, but if you get hearing those stories and then knowing who Jimmy is, like Jimmy's a wild man, at least he was.
I've heard that as well.
He's a little more tame these days. He's a family man and takes care of business, but I mean, he grew up with a famous dad under I think the company was incorporated around the year that Jimmy was born, so you can imagine like just every year of Jimmy's life was another anniversary of his dad's company. And
crazy, man.
His whole life, his dad is like working with the greatest musicians on the planet. And he's like, oh, that's just, whatever. Oh yeah. So-and-so, Pink Floyd, oh, whoever, they're always over. We're always talking. It's normal shit,
my dad knows him.
Exactly. Yeah, and so Jimmy took it on, and he's done such a good job by his dad's name and by his family's name, and grown that company. I think he's probably responsible for doubling the income in that place, through his business. Even though he's kind of a shoot from the hip, he's very smart. But he's also very like, I feel it here and in my gut that I got to go do the thing. It's not like an intellectual. It's not always an intellectual thing where he's like, no, the math adds up and I'm going to make this decision. He would just be like, I don't want to do that. That's stupid. Even if that's mathematically correct, you're like, I'm not I don't want to be associated with that. I'm just gonna do my thing, and then it ends up being hugely successful. You're like, okay, all right, can't argue with it, man. I'll just go with it.
No, definitely not, man. That's cool. That's really cool. Like that.
Well, tell me about what you've been listening to lately. You got any players or any bands or albums that are like maybe not a lot of people know about that we should check out?
Oh, that's a tough question. That, um, you're all gonna know about who I'm about to chat about, but while I think about the other stuff, Mammoth, Wolfgang Van Halen, his album, I've literally had that on repeat non-stop, like since the album came out. It's outstanding. It's crazy how talented he is. Like his voice is incredible as well, man. It's like if
Sure is.
if no one's listened to this album, they need to go and listen to it right now, because I'll excuse them from leaving the podcast because it's such a good album. Yeah, it's a tough question with music. You know, it's like one of those things where I get asked it and it's like my mind goes blank. It's like, you're just listening to music. Trying to get into different stuff. Been listening to that Luke Combs guy. He's great.
Luke Combs?
Yeah, the country musician. Oh, it's unbelievable. He is like he's huge, but he's great.
Okay.
Architects.
Sure.
They're fantastic. Their album this year was unbelievable. I'm gonna have a quick look at my phone just to see what else, because I've been listening to some good music. I swear I have. Let's see. Yeah, a band called Royal Tusk. I hadn't come across them. They've got some good kind of rock tunes. What else have we been listening to? Let's see. I have a habit of just rinsing the same albums for like a period of a couple months. Don't know if you're like that as well. I'll bore myself silly with the same song. I'll just repeat it over and over again. Lately I've been trying to like write my own music, just kind of not get in my head. So if I listen to a lot of different stuff, I end up like trying to write a lot of different stuff. So I've been kind of like trying to focus it on one thing for this stuff that I'm doing. So
what's on repeat right now?
What's on repeat? Yeah. Wolfgang Van Halen's on repeat, man. That's the one. That and For Those That Wish to Exist by Architects. It's just unbelievable albums. What about you?
Well, yeah, that's my stuff is, I'm so all over the place, man. Some days I'm listening, somebody will suggest like a singer-songwriter that I've never heard, and I'm all of a sudden I'm like in this melancholy like place where I can't, and I just it's so good. Like although I had a really great suggestion from Moon Zappa probably a month or so ago. She gets some quirky things sometimes, and she sent me this guy Dan Reeder, and you should check him out on Instagram. Dan Reeder. Yeah, it's not he's a folk, I guess you call a folk singer-songwriter thing, but he's always, it's like almost, there's humor in all of his songs. There's humor almost in everything, but tinges of seriousness here and there. For example, but he seems to like make or improve upon his own instruments all the time. So he's got some kind of funky acoustic instruments that he's either built or like kind of added onto or customized. And there's a bunch of pictures of him in a wood shop. Looks like he looks like he records his music in the wood shop too. Like, and he's an older gentleman that writes really good songs, has an incredible voice. I actually want him on the podcast. I invited him. He said that maybe he might come on, but like all these funky songs. One of them is called The Work Song, and it's just like, it's the same line over and over again. And I won't do it any justice, but the song goes like, I got all the fucking work I need. I got all the fucking work I need, and he goes and he does all these layered harmonies with himself, and he's just it's real simple. The recordings sound really crisp, and and not too overproduced or anything. It feels kind of old timey in a weird way, but not old timey, but yeah,
Cool, man.
just really. And he'll make you laugh. Like so many songs like that sound at first you're like, oh, the song's about porn. Like he has a song about that, and there's a bunch of hilarious things. I don't want to spoil any of it for you, but
I'll listen to it, man. That sounds.
Yeah,
I've definitely heard of Dan Reader, but I've not. I would have known if I'd listened to him, but nah, I'll listen to it after this for sure.
Yeah, I'll send you a link or make sure you get it. Dan Reader is great. Recently, I listened to a lot of hip hop and a lot of other things, but let me pull up mine real quick.
It's good to mix it up, listening to like a bunch of different stuff. It's crazy if you get people out there that just, I swear, they force themselves to listen to the one thing. I used to do it with metal. I was like, metal or nothing, man. It's just it's fucking just listen to anything. Scared to admit that I liked Spice Girls, that kind of thing, but it's like fucking embrace it.
Okay, so there's this woman that and this is just like I listen to a decent amount of metal too, but I almost feel like in some ways it's cliche for me to be like, oh, like this morning I was listening to All That Remains at the gym. All That Remains, The Fall of Ideals, classic album. I don't know if you know that album. I don't
know if I've listened to that one. I used to listen to All That Remains back in the day, but it's been a long time.
Oof. So this one, I encourage you to put it on the list. The Fall of Ideals was I don't know what year that was, maybe 90. No, I'm sorry, 2090. It's like probably like 2008 or maybe 2007 or something. I don't know. But Ollie Herbert, he passed on not too long ago.
Yeah.
Phenomenal album from front to back, and it was produced, I think, recorded and engineered by Adam D from Killswitch. Nice. So there was a magic thing that happened. Songwriting, the guitar performances are out of control. It's not fair. It's like Ollie, like he's an amazing guitar player, and I love a lot of other things outside of this album, but this was like, to me, the pinnacle moment for him.
It's like prime Adam D as well. Like if it was like 2008, you've got just coming off the back of those Killswitch albums as well. It's just fucking
exactly
great.
But as far as another diverse thing that I've been up to, there's this woman, Raquel Rodriguez, and I believe she's mostly in Southern California, LA. And I'm really into like neo soul and 90s R&B, like neo soul, like throwback, like that's being made now, but it's kind of like you could put it on, but like, is this the lost album from the late 90s or and Raquel Rodriguez has an album that came out this year called Sweet Side. And if you're into any of that kind of like baby making music, like is your thing at all, she is so good. And it's just amazing. I'm kind of, this is my one of my favorite things. That's that style of music and R&B. So I love the really dope bass lines and like there's like always a little bit of hip hop influence, a little bit of soul and funk.
Kind of comes together.
Whoa. Well, I hope it was always being recorded.
Oh man, imagine it wasn't.
No, I'm sure it is, but like it's really weird that it reminded us.
Oh,
it's like
shit.
BT dubs, friends.
It's like, yeah, I'm sure. Later, let's redo it.
No, I'm pretty sure we're good. That's funny. I'll double confirm, but it's fine.
Oh man.
But, yeah, man. I want to say that music is I think one of the reasons, I'm naturally dispossessed to listen to a variety of music, but I got the advice when I was in my first year of college in a jazz like improv class, and the teacher, I was in my mode of like everything metal, even though I liked everything, I was like everything metal, like metal, and I had my band, and I was like, man, I'm just trying to be a good metal guitar player, and Steve Kim was his name, and he was like, he's like, okay. He listened to some of my music, and he was like, So my advice to you is to regularly stop listening to metal for like a week or two at a time and don't listen to any metal. If you want to become a better metal guitarist, then you need to listen to less metal, because what happens is oftentimes is that you just adopt the same old tropes, the same old things. And it's not that, jazz has its issues with that too. You listen to the same type of jazz all the time, you'll end up creating a thing within that genre. And maybe that's your goal. Maybe your goal is to sound identical or just 1 degree off from your favorite artist or whatever. If that's the case, then keep doing what you're doing. It'll eventually yield itself. But if you're looking to, come into your own as an original player, eventually you have to take in a lot more inspirations from different places and try to work out a jazz line or a funk line into your metal, like and vice versa.
It's like Alex Skolnick from Testament. He's the prime example of that.
What a ridiculous player.
One of the best metal bands ever, in my opinion. And it's just
ever
think, oh man, look at him, he looks like an absolute just metal guitarist, but he's so unbelievably versatile. He's just a total joy to watch and to listen to. And it's just because he's like studied jazz, blues, just everything. He just loves learning new things and listening to new things. And that's definitely the approach that a lot of people need to take. It's like if you listen to the same thing, you play the same thing, you're just gonna do the same thing. Listen to something else, and it might inspire you to, to sound a bit different, and that in turn might help you out. That's the way I see it. Really. Yeah. As the way, obviously, a lot of people see it.
Do you have a favorite Testament album?
That's a tough question. I actually like, what's the one they brought out in like 2009? I can't remember the name. Is
that Formation of Damnation?
Yeah, man, fuck, that's it. I love that album.
Like, that's the one when Skolnick, that was his comeback, I think.
Yeah, that was actually the first one I'd ever heard. When I was kind of getting it, I was so focused on like Metallica and Megadeth, and I just didn't really listen to many other metal bands. But when I started branching out, I was listening to like Testament, and I was like, "Fuck, that's really good." Yeah, that album's great. Everything I've released since then is great as well.
Yeah, I would say Formation of Damnation is in my top 5 of the Testament albums. I actually got into that that band on The Ritual. So, and The Ritual was a little bit old when I got into it.
Yeah.
And then Low dropped, and Alex Skolnick wasn't on there. He was James Murphy. I don't know if you're familiar with James. But
not familiar with that guy. Like,
well, do yourself a little favor. Go back and listen to Low, Testament Low. It was the first. If you listen to The Ritual, actually, and then you listen to Low, you go, "Oh wow, there was a huge jump that happened here."
Yeah.
And Low was where they took on more heavier, like more of an aggressive sound, and they had a new guitar player. So
it's funny, like one new guitarist can change everything as well. It's like you listen to Megadeth; they're a classic example of that. Like the amount of guitarists they've had totally changes their albums. You'll see like Chris Poland's playing is completely different to what Marty Friedman brought to it. It was funny, like Marty Friedman brought an element of like, it was fairly similar with some of his lines, but completely fucking different. It's like when Marty left, and was it what's his name? Al. I can't remember his name. They didn't bring out an album until.
What was the interim guitar player? I just remember Chris Broderick was the next player, but I know there was one in between.
Yeah, so it was after Marty left. The next album they brought out after that was in like 2003, and it had Al something. I'll find his name out later. Al something. And then United Abominations, when that came out, that was Glenn Drover, who actually played in Testament as well.
Yeah.
But then Glenn left, and Chrys came in, and I really loved like his playing. When I listened to Endgame, I still think that's a fucking great album, but his playing on that is just unbelievable. I've got to be honest, I haven't been too keen on any Megadeth since that album. I like it, but it kind of got a little bit samey. But Kiko is a fantastic player as well, man. He's unbelievable.
I feel like Kiko is, for me, he's the best player since Marty. Like it's not that I don't respect the other players, they just didn't speak to me. And I wanted to like Chris Broderick a lot too, but like, and I think that he is obviously a very proficient player. He has a ripping signature guitar. I think you have one, don't you?
I had one on loan. I wish they let me keep it. I wish.
Man, I had that same guitar for a little while. I had it. Yeah.
Oh, nice. But yeah. The neck on them is fantastic.
Yeah.
But the overall shape as well, fucking yeah. I didn't.
It's kind of a heavy guitar though, yeah.
Oh man,
it's kind of heavy.
It's really heavy. Mine was quite neck heavy, for some reason, but it was pretty heavy. I think I had that for about 5 months or something, and I got to a point where I was like, are they just gonna forget about this and let me keep it? And I got the dreaded email of needing it back. I was like, oh no. One day they'll forget.
Not a fan of giving the guitars back.
No, I just keep them.
Yeah, I'm old school. I can't. I guess Marty Friedman just can't be replaced, in my opinion. Like, and you know, and they've made good albums since. Obviously, you know, it's not like they can't make good albums without. But his unique phrasing and tendencies on the guitar have, I don't know, it's like that's Megadeth to me. Like when I hear Rust in Peace, when I hear Countdown to Extinction, Euthanasia, like I really love Euthanasia. Like,
yeah, man, I love that. So, you know, one of my favorite songs the Megadeth did is that song Victory. It's on Euthanasia. Where they blend like every other song together with the lyrics. I think it's Marty's solo in that is fucking unbelievable.
Man,
I love Euthanasia, man. I think it's a fantastic album. I even like Cryptid Writings. Yeah.
I'll listen to that too.
I mean, it's Trust's on that album, isn't it? I love that song. Yep. The funny thing is, I think the first time I ever heard the song Trust, I heard the Spanish version of it. They've got like a deluxe version where Dave Mustaine sings the chorus in Spanish.
Whoa.
Mental. It must be on YouTube somewhere. I think that's where I heard it. And I just thought that was how it was. And then I finally heard the English version of it. But his solo in Trust it's much, you know, it's a more simplistic approach for a solo for him, but it's one of my favorites. Just unbelievable.
It's interesting that the progress of the band and hearing the same players in different contexts, that over the span of Rust in Peace to Cryptic Writings, let's say, you know, like as the band was trying to kind of shift towards a more commercial sound because they were seeing Metallica get so much more play, you know. And I think, I mean, that's my, you know, explanation for it. I'm sure there's other explanations for it, but you know, but it's, I always find it interesting, especially because they were doing such incredible semi-progressive technical thrash, or, you know, with Marty on Rust and you know, some on Countdown to Extinction, that to hear them in a more pop context on Euthanasia and Cryptic Writings, it actually does the solos like kind of like this weird big favor, you know, because of the format, right? You know, like the progressions seem more juicy. And oftentimes when you have less time to express yourself in the grand, it's not just like, oh yeah, take 16 bars, like whatever, and keep going. Like the solos on Holy Wars, you know, and like, and how many times you get to take a solo in Lucretia Tornado of Souls, you know, like it's different, you know, it's different. Dude, me too. Like it might be my favorite. It's hard to choose.
It's funny, when the second we started talking about Megadeth, that solo popped into my head, and it's just been on repeat since. That's the riff as well, man. The intro riff. It's when it we're just gonna have like I'm just explode.
It just blows me over. Like every time I put that album on, I'm like, oh, I'm home, baby. Oh, this is I get chill. I'm getting chills thinking about that album.
Totally, it's unbelievable.
And, And here's a little side note that I haven't told anybody yet, but like I've been emailing with Marty, and
World
he just said,
exclusive.
yeah, this is world exclusive. He said that he'll be on the pod early November.
Oh
So
man, yes,
yeah, I'm super excited, dude.
that'll be
Like
fucking great.
woo, I'm like, all right, let's do this because he's he's also just one of those guys that he's one of just such super unique the way he holds his pick
Like,
and the way he's I don't even it doesn't make sense to the rest of us. It can't. I mean, there's only 3 other people maybe on the planet that actually do something really like him.
yeah,
And his nonchalance, like working with him for a few years, especially through Dunlop. I helped set up the conditions for him to get his EMG signature pickups right before I left.
oh man,
Thankfully those guys followed through, did the right thing, and then
yeah,
we did a bunch of guitar picks and pedals and stuff at Dunlop, and during the time that I would hang out with him and go down and see the shows and stuff. It's interesting because like I'd be like, hey Marty, we would have these long emails, or back and forth email chains about like, so what guitar picks do you want, and he's be like, I'm not, I don't know, like something kind of medium, like I'm like, he doesn't, material is not really a thing.
yeah,
Make sure that like they just need to look good because when he throws them out, it's advertisement and everything.
yeah.
But and then I got to thinking, and I listened to him more as we would talk, and I'm like, okay, he's just one of those guys where like some certain most players I would say are pretty particular, right? Like, oh, I need to have my favorite guitar, the special gauge of strings, my favorite pick, and
Yeah,
my amp setting and everything, and then
perfect.
I can perform the thing. Whereas there's the other category of player, right, where they just pick shit up, and it doesn't have to be perfect at all. I mean, it'd be nice if it was, but it doesn't need to be. And they just sound like them, and they sound ridiculous. He's that guy.
Crazy.
He's
It's
that guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool, man. It blows me away, that kind of thing. Guys can just pick up like under any guitar, any like situation. You'd be plugged into a Spider 15 on the insane
Yep.
setting with everything cranked full. If you put Eric Johnson into that amp with like a Behringer Stratocaster, he's gonna sound exactly like Eric
Killing
Johnson.
me. Just I'm trying to imagine that, like the fully gained Spider Line 6 and Eric Johnson.
Just treble all the way as well.
Like I think the internet needs that video. Eric Johnson, if you're out there somewhere listening, like please let somebody just plug you into a Line 6 Spider cranked with full volume and just go at it. Just want to hear it.
Have you seen there's a video of Eric Johnson playing a Dean Razorback?
What?
Yeah, honestly,
No.
I'll send you it.
Please.
He sounds like Eric Johnson though. It's mental.
Well, I hope so.
Playing a big like lightning bolt Dean Razorback is crazy. It looks so alien on him. It's just mental.
Yeah, that's a good visual in my head. Wow, what a trip! What a trip, man. Well, hey, man, I super appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. I'm gonna wrap it up with you, so you can get on with your evening, and I got a few things I gotta.
Progressively darker. Everything's just like,
oh my gosh,
got a little bit of light left. If you watch back from the start, it's all nice and bright, and then it's like doom and gloom now. But no, man, thanks so much for having me on it. It's an honor to be on this with you. I respect you a lot. You've had so many cool people on this. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, man. I'm really glad to have you. You're a tremendous player, and I really look forward to how you corral your talents and where you place it. Can you tell us before we go, like, should we expect a solo album or a band, or what is the thing that you aspire to do with what you're up to right now?
So for a while, I was torn. I was like, I need to bring out a solo albums, do this and that. I've written, honestly, a couple hundred songs over the last few years. I swear. Not like bits of songs. Not some of them are full. It's funny. I think you posted on Facebook a while ago about having like self doubt about something you write. And that's something I I've had for a long time. So yeah, I was like, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. But I've actually lately, the last 4 months, so I left my last band. I'd been in that band for about 8 years or something like that, maybe 8 or 9 years, and it just wasn't working out towards the end. Left that, and I'm in a new project. We don't have a name yet, otherwise I would be like, this is our name. We're trying to come up with one. You know, it's like it takes absolutely ages, but I'm really liking the stuff. It's the best stuff I've ever written, and it's songs that I've written, and I can listen back to it and be like, yeah, that I do like that. That is something that I would listen to. It's not something I'm like, that's not good enough. Let's bin it and go for something else. So quite excited to get it out there. I think the plan for it is get a damn name. The drummer wanted to call it Hot Mormon. So might just go for that in the end. We can't come up with anything else. But yeah, it's like a heavy rock with a little bit of metal in that. It's almost like Alter Bridge, but then it's like got other mixtures of. I'm just blending loads of stuff that I love. I want to write something that I like to listen to, but the plan is there's like a 5-track EP that we have. We're gonna have that recorded fairly soon, hopefully in the next like couple of months, and then release it this year or early next year. Obviously, I want to get the marketing side of things right. I just don't want to just go, oh, I've got an album, and here it is. I want to try and do it. Try and do it right for the first time. At least maximize the engagement to start with. Hopefully, the people that follow me aren't going to be like, I just want to listen to 1,000 notes a second, and they take the time and listen to it. And there will be people that will listen to it, and there'll be people that, that won't. But yeah, I'm quite excited for it, man. Just looking forward to getting back out there again, playing shows and releasing music, and that is the plan for me.
Cool. So full band, what a 4-piece or 5-piece?
4-piece.
4-piece. So guitar, bass, drums, and vocals.
Guitar, two guitarists actually, drummer and bassist singing as well. It may change slightly. I don't know how comfortable he is doing bass at the same time as vocals. So we may get another bassist, but
sure.
Yeah, hopefully 4-piece, but if not, then 5-piece. But yeah.
Well, man, I'm wishing you guys all the best. Getting a new project off the ground can be daunting and a lot of work. And as you said, you could just drop stuff and then keep moving. But like, it's better to be more prepared and try to have everything ready to go, get maximum engagement out the front so that you can, book those shows and tours and start growing that situation.
Just going to try and do it right. But next year, hopefully finally release some of that solo stuff that I've been saying I'll be bringing out for about 10 million years.
Yeah, please do. I've watched a few players that bounce back and forth between solo stuff and full band stuff with vocals. And, especially if they get known as the Shredder on Instagram or YouTube Shredder, it can be tough to get like, hey, listen to these full songs with, with vocals and all this stuff. People are less apt to, bite on that. But if you give them a little bit of both, hey, man.
Exactly. That's the plan.
Choose your own adventure,
Definitely. Exactly.
All right, brother. Well, thank you so much once again, Kieran. I appreciate you. I hope you have the best evening ever, and let's stay in touch. All right.
You too, man. Catch you later. Thanks so much again.
Players Pick Podcast, Picks and Perspective with Chrys Johnston. Pool table.